Good day. In most of the applications that we have developed with SithasoDaisy, one of the important elements or base layout has been the base layout in terms of structuring your application. So what I want to do in this video is to kind of like explain how that works in a way, so that at least we do understand the basic principles of starting a SithasoDaisy application with a drawer and a content area to run your application. So we're starting with the LowCode Generator tool, and we're going to activate the designer here for this particular project. Currently, this is not linked as yet, but as we have discussed earlier on in terms of how to create a project with the LowCode Generator, so let's just assume that when you activate the designer here, it's linked to this particular project here. So let's activate the designer. And currently our structure is blank here because we have not added any pages into our application. So we're going to go to pages and then we activate a new page. Let me just increase the font here is 90%. Okay, let me just put it on 100. So we're just going to go to pages here and then do a new. So what this does is to, let me just refresh this, is to add a new page there. I forgot to activate this to make it the active node. So what has happened here is that a new page has been added into our application, but we need to put some components into this particular page. So let's go to properties and just see how everything is set up here. So this is the component name, and then that's the title, and then that's the color and other things. You can also set the background images. For example, let's say that we wanted to set a background image for this. Let's just go to assets and then select the picture, and then we don't want to resize the page view. It's not a container, it's a flex call, for example. We don't want flex wrap, there's no caps, and all sorts of other things. Let's set the width for demonstration purposes. We'll just set the width of this thing to be 600 pixels and the height to be 600 pixels, so that we can just see how it will look like. So what we're going to do is to save our page, and then this is just our page. So this is the background image of our page as we have specified it on the properties. So if we go to the HTML view, then we see how this page is defined. There's the ID, there's the width and the height. It's a flex, having a base color of 100. And then the background image is that, so, and then this is the before X code for it. This is how it will look like. It will be generated. So when we define our page as a starting point, what we usually need to have inside it is a drawer. So what we're going to do is to set this to be the active component. You right click on it, and then you say it's an active component. It basically means that that is where we're going to be adding our components in. So we're going to add a drawer here. Then our drawer is sitting somewhere within that particular page. So if we identify it, here's the drawer here. And then it has been added in relation to our HTML. So our drawer is having a content area and a side area and some actions, as we can see in this particular structure here. So our app viewer, for example, or our page view usually sits inside this content area, and then the menu sits inside the side content. So what we're going to do as a beginning, because we want to demonstrate how the base layout works, what we're going to do is to set the content as active and then add a navbar because this navbar is going to be universal in terms of the application that we want to create. We want the navbar to be always active in all the pages that we're going to create. So we make it a universal navigation bar. And then what we do again is to add a container, for example. Now what this container will do is to behave like a page view. So we're going to take this and we're just going to drag and put it inside our content area, because that's where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be just below the navbar. So if we identify this in our page, it is there just below. So the assumption with this container is that it will act like the page view, where, for example, we will share it and then write our contents for each and every page that we're going to show in our application. So we do have a navbar, we do have a container there. Now, in our site content, what we can do in our site content then is to add the menu items, where, for example, you're going to click on each menu item and then activate a particular page. So for now, what we can do with this is to just define that this is a logo and all sorts of other things. So let's right click on it, go to properties. Let's say it has a logo, and then there's the logo image that is there. And then what we also want to do is to change this to be base layout. And then this is going to be linked to the drawer one. So let's try and link this to the drawer one, the hamburger menu, which is this one here. When you click on it, it needs to activate that particular drawer. So we're going to save this. So to demonstrate that the linkage has been made with that drawer one, if you click here, it's supposed to activate the drawer there. There's a drawer that is being activated here. So assuming that this was here and this navigation bar, each and every time you have a navigation click toggle, it will toggle the drawer and close and open it. But this drawer is empty here. But this is linked to this particular drawer here. As you can see in our application, we do not have any other drawer, but we have just linked this swap button. This is called a swap button because as soon as we click it, it shows another icon. And then let's perhaps change the image here to be a little bit like a square circle or something like that. So again, we go to our properties, and then the shape of our logo mask, let's make it to be a round or square circle. I like square circle. This is a combination of a square and a circle. I like that one. So it changes to be that one. So as you can see now, we have our hamburger button, our logo for our application, and then the title. We can also change this title to be at the center or to be at the right, because as you can see here on the children of this particular component, we have a left part, we have a center part, we have a right part. The back part is the back button, but it is hidden here. The burger is this here. The logo is this logo here. And then we can also activate a search box. So it is currently not there. Now, we have done a drawer for our application. We have done the navigation bar. We have done the content where, for example, our page component will sit. So if we make this active, for example, we can add other components to it. Let's add a text box. Let's add another one. Let's add a password. Let's add a color picker and all sorts of other things. So what this is basically doing is to put all of these particular components inside this particular container here, which is where our page components will be. So when you create each and every page of your application, you can tell it that it needs to be placed inside this particular container in this particular page. So that is how the PG index code works actually. You know, the base layout will load all of these, the navigation bar, the drawer, and then the app view, assuming that this is the app view or page view component, and then your page will be loaded inside of that. So I'm just demonstrating now in relation to how would you create your particular page as a starting point. So what we also want to do, in most of the drawers, for example, there are menu items for you to select that you can navigate to another page. So in our site content, we will activate it and then we'll add a menu. We'll add a menu. So if you go here now, you'll see that there is a menu there. Now we need to adjust this menu to be the same size as our drawer. But first of all, before we do that, let's just add a couple of items to it. Just to demonstrate, let's make it active. And then what we're going to do is to add a couple of menu items into it. Let's just add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So if you go now, the menu has 5 items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. But let's just fix a little bit of things there. Now what we need to do is to resize the menu to be the same size as our drawer. So it basically means that we need to make the width and the height. So let's make this empty. Let's change the width to full, basically, because we want the width of the menu to take the full area of the drawer, because it's inside that particular component. It's not a rounded box. We want the items to be rounded, no shadow. Let's remove this. Okay, I think that's basically the minimal that we can do. So if we save this now and open our drawer again, find that now the drawer is full, the menu item is full and taking up the space. Because when our drawer is being defined on properties, the site width was set to be 80. And we said that it should have an overlay. It's not rounded. And all sorts of other things. Okay. So our menu here will take the width of that particular drawer item. Now let's fix a couple of things here. Let's go through each of the menu items that are here, because what we need to do, they are not titles, they are just normal menu items, and then the menu name is that one. So we're going to say menu item 1. We're just going to change the name for each of them so that we know exactly what is it for. Okay, so let's just save this. And then if you open it now, there's the menu item 1. So we just need to change this to be the normal menu item and not the title. So this is menu item 1. Let's do the second one. Properties. It's a normal item. Menu item 2. There are various types of menu items that we can have here. An avatar with a text, a collapse item, an icon text, and then the normal, and then a title. So for now, we'll just stick to the normal item that we want to set. So it's a normal item, menu item 3. Of course, you can create numerous items via code, but we're just demonstrating here in terms of how this will basically work if you are designing it via the designer. So this is 4. And then what we do is also the normal one. And then this is the 5th one. So basically, this is setting up our drawer menu. So as indicated here, there's menu 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then with all of these things, we have, first of all, defined the page. Then we added the drawer. And then inside the drawer content, we added the navigation bar and we added a container. And then inside our container, there are these particular components. And then in our navigation bar, we said that we need to have a logo, and we changed the mask of that logo to bisqueckle. And then what we also did in our site content of the drawer, which is this particular site, we added a menu. And then inside the menu, we added the menu items so that they just appear like these particular items, and then change their structure to be normal instead of tab. So what is this basically demonstrating is that when we're creating a base layout where everything of our application will be placed in, we can use a drawer which will have a menu, so that each and every time we select each menu item here, it activates another page. And then that drawer will have a navigation bar, which will be a universal navigation bar for our application. So we can also have a navigation bar in each of the pages that we can create, so that, for example, it works depending on the page preferences that we have. And that navigation bar will have a back button, for example, where, for example, you need to show a different title for each of the pages that we have on your application. So we'll demonstrate how to do that. We also showed you how to add a background image to a particular page. And then when you go to see the HTML portion of this particular code we have created now, it is generated here in terms of how it will look. And then the B4X code for everything that we have done in this tree. As you can see here, each item is placed in a tree structure where each item is inside another one. So we're basically demonstrating here in terms of how the B4X code will look like in terms of generating the code that we want. There's the build page, there's the drawer there, you know, and then inside that particular drawer, there's a navbar. That's why you see here the parent ID being based on the drawer, and then the mask logo, the title, and then the container that we added also on the same drawer. And then after that, we added the text box and other things inside that particular content. We treat it as page viewer. And then what we also did was to add a menu inside the site content of that drawer. And then we set the size of it to be medium with a base 100 background color. The width is full. It's not a rounded box. And then what we did inside that particular menu, we added menu items. For example, this is one. It's menu item 1. It's just the text. As I've shown there on the options, we can have different menu items. But now for here, this one, we just have 4 menu items that are here. So this is how this will be done in B4X. This is how this can be done in HTML. You can copy this HTML and paste it on. Let's do this. Let's go to the Daisy website, because what I want to do, I want to just take this code that is here and paste it on Tailwind Play and see how that is going to work. So let's do that. Playground, Tailwind Playground. I'm going to take this code, copy, then place it here, and just so that we see how it goes. There it is. Okay. Let's do this. I think it's open before, but I think it's what? It's checked, né? Some of the things are not showing here because yeah, let me just do check here so that we see the drawer here, because we can't see it because the swap button here is using an SVG render, which is some other component that I created. So these are all our menu items that we created, you know? Yeah. And then this is our container here with all of these particular items that are here. Of course, you don't see the background image here because it's the image is somewhere else. But as you can see, these are the menu items that were created. As I've indicated, a menu item can have an avatar, can have an icon, and things like that, and a badge. So that's what it is. And then this is, yeah, this is color picker. This is using another component, so that's why you don't see much of it now. But basically, as you can see here, we've just been able to take our code that is generated here, paste it on Tailwind Play, and then it has created everything for us that we needed. For example, you might have to have links for the other items here, like these ones, you know, menu SVG, you know, and all sorts of other things. So this one here is the left part, base layout, that's the image, and all sorts of other things. So this just shows you in terms of how we can have our designer code tested and debugged in relation to going just with Tailwind Play, even other web development platforms, you know. But for our purpose here now, the code that is generated here will be used in our P4J Banano transpiler. And this is how basically it will basically work and look like. Okay. Yeah. So this is this. All right. Thank you for now.